Hello and welcome to the United Stand. This is your Manchester United Transfer Daily live on Sunday morning at 11 AM UK time. Was last night actually real? Was it real? I mean, lots going on. If you were watching the Saturday night live stream on the United Stand that we had to take down because of the rude Snapchat, then we went back live again, and then we hit 100,000 subscribers, then on air, we had Lindelof signing, the first Manchester United signing of the summer. Very nice of Manchester United to wait until we had 100,000 subscribers before they announced it. That was very nice of them to do that. Wink, don't take that seriously. But I want to talk about Lindelof in a few minutes because the backlash is ridiculous, and I'm not naming names. I did it on my own account on Twitter last night. Probably shouldn't have done, but I was a bit emotional. But I want to talk about that. But first of all, let's talk about Fabinho. Lots and lots of things going on with Manchester United, and as I said last night, I gave Robin a big shout out. I'm not going to give his full name because he doesn't want it to be given, but you could probably deduce it if you look through our timeline on Twitter. Somebody who's been giving us information for quite a while now, and he did say to me about a week and a half ago, 99% Lindelof is done, and I wouldn't commit to it because of January, but he was spot on, and he has said other things as well, and we'll have to wait and see if they happen. But happy with that deal. But one thing I'm getting a lot of today and have had this week is Fabinho to Manchester United. Now, this is a signing that I want it to happen. I've been saying it for a long time now, that if I could have one player from Monaco, as much as Mbappe's great and Silva was good and Mendy's a brilliant left back, and I don't think that's out of the question, by the way. The one thing I would say is that Fabinho would be my pick from Monaco. And I know there's people who've been messaging saying, don't want Fabinho, I've seen him, he's not good enough, this, that and the other. And, you know, I never say a signing is going to definitely work because there's a lot of things that can go wrong. Injury, not settling, not getting on with the manager, etc. But Fabinho would fit Manchester United very, very well. Age-wise, he's 23 and a half, if people need to know that. He's 6'2", which I think is very important because for a centre defensive midfielder, 6'2", is important because it gives you that little bit of height and domination there. He's not slow, so he's got a good movement around the floor, which helps. Most people do move on the floor. His passing ability is good, which we'd expect from a Brazilian. He likes a tackle. He can take penalties as well, so he's good on the ball, and he's intelligent in relation to his positional sense, which if you've watched Bakayoko at Monaco, which a lot of other people like, because when you compare the two, Bakayoko's more of a beast than Fabinho. Bakayoko's positional sense isn't great, and his pace isn't as good either. So Fabinho would be perfect. I think he would probably cost between 30 and 40 million pounds, which in today's market, when we need a centre defensive midfielder, I'd be happy to pay that. I think we got Lindelof for a decent price, around 30 million. I think Fabinho around 40 would be great. But what I would say about Fabinho is I don't have anybody telling me this deal is done by any means. What I'm picking up here is a lot of things from not just the UK press. There's a bit from Brazil, there's a bit from Spain, there's a bit from Portugal. Why they would know, I don't know. And obviously, we had Dimarzio saying that Manchester United were in for Fabinho about 6 weeks ago. Not a lot of people picked up on that. You would have seen it on one of our videos because obviously Dimarzio we have a lot of time for. So Manchester United are definitely in for Fabinho. I think that's one tick. If you are feeling a bit nervous of whether this deal's going to happen, we are. It's just whether we can pull that deal off. He could stay at Monaco, he could go to Juventus, Manchester City quite like him, PSG like him. He has got options, but same agent as Jose Mourinho in Jorge Mendes, but Bernardo Silva had the same agent as well. But my interpretation of that was that Manchester United were never in for him. I think Fabinho is a player that we will be in for. And a lot of talk that he could be the next signing because he's not on Brazil international duty. It could happen. But to be honest, I'll always say when I'm wrong, I said we won't be making any international signings until early next week because everyone's got a game. And Lindelof has got a game on Tuesday. So maybe he had a day off yesterday in between and that's how it got announced. But that sort of blows the theory out of the water that you can't sign players when they're on international duty because you can. We won't. I don't think Morata will get revealed today because he has actually got an international qualifier for Spain tonight. So it's not a day off for him. But anybody else it could happen. But Fabinho, sticking with him, I hope we can get that deal. I think it's more important than people like Perisic, and Lindelof was important because we need a centre-back. But a centre defensive midfielder is up there with a number 9 for me because we need a number 9 who can score goals because Latan's going, Rashford's not ready yet, Rooney, I don't know whether he's going or not, but needs to go. So we need a number 9 because the most important thing in football is putting the ball in the back of the net. We created a lot of chances last year and hopefully we'll get 2. But after that, I think centre defensive midfield is really important. I think Herrera is restricted playing that role. I think he can play it, but he's better playing a little bit further forward. Carrick's obviously on the decline. Fabinho. Fellaini is not a centre defensive midfielder by anyone's shout. So we need somebody to come in. And I think Fosu Mensah will be, but he's not ready yet. So we need somebody to come in and do that. And I think Fabinho would be perfect. He may not be. He may not be the player we sign. There are others out there, but he would be my pick if we're going to get anybody. Bringing it into, there's something else I want to talk about in a minute, which might be quite surprising that not a lot of you might have picked up on this morning, but it's from a decent tabloid in the UK. But first of all, I want to talk about Lindelof. I'm very excited about Lindelof. I don't know how many people have watched Lindelof. I know if you put a tweet up, if you've got a Twitter account, and you say if you say something on the lines of Lindelof's going to be a great signing, I've watched 5 minutes on him on YouTube, and then you get other people being honest, saying I don't know how good Lindelof is. I'm not going to pretend like everybody else that have seen him. If you follow the United Stand, you'll know I did a video back in December of my top 5 centre backs to come in because we need a centre back. Of which Lindelof, I think, ranked around, he might have been 5th or 4th, but he had some good company there. Manolas was in there, Howard was there from Schalke, and Jimenez from Atletico Madrid, but he was in there. So, and I thought we were going to sign him in January, and then it didn't happen, but it was sort of, well, maybe it happened in the summer. So I'd say I've probably watched him about 10 times this season, and I feel very confident about the signing. It's not a guess. But even if you don't know much about him, I think what frustrates me is that there is an underlying... People are sort of going along, I back Mourinho, when these people have actually not backed Mourinho. They didn't want Mourinho. And then any little opportunity they get to be negative, they will do it. And it annoys me. I mean, I'm happy to talk to anybody about Lindelof if they want to know what he's about, or they want to try and tell people that he's a bad signing. But saying you're not happy with the signing, or you're not confident about signing, or finding flaws in his game when he's only just signed for Manchester United, is just odd behaviour. I mean, maybe it's throwing toys out the pram because you want Tuanzebe to play. Look, I'll tell you now, expert on the youth or not, Tuanzebe's not ready to be Manchester United centre-back yet. 100%. And I'll argue that with anybody. He can be one of the best centre-backs England have produced in the last 30 years. And look at what we've produced. People like Terry, Rio Ferdinand, very, very good centre-backs. But Tuanzebe is not ready for that yet. I think in a year's time he might be. But at 19 years of age, I look at him. I mean, even Mourinho didn't play him as centre-back in those games. He put him in the centre defensive midfield position because he gets more protection. He's a fantastic talent, but have no doubt about it, he's not ready to be a Manchester United first-choice centre-back at the moment. And I think the best thing for him is probably a loan move, because he needs regular football. And he is a fantastic talent. So if people are getting moody about Tuanzebe because we've signed a centre-back, I just don't understand that. Look at our centre-backs last year. I like Smalling, I would keep him, but I know a lot of you wouldn't. So that's all about opinion. Maybe Smalling needs to go. Phil Jones needs to go. I mean, whatever you think about him, and I don't rate him anyway, he has got a terrible injury record. Rojo's injured till Christmas. I like Rojo. Bay obviously is Bay, we like him. Tuanzebe, very, very good, but I don't think he's ready and he needs a loan. And Daley Blind, I like Daley Blind, but maybe he can be a backup as a left-back. Maybe he can be a centre defensive midfielder like some people think there. We needed to sign a centre-back. So the negativity around Lindelof, I don't understand it. I really don't understand it. He's one of the best ball-playing centre-backs in Europe. He is absolutely brilliant at it. He can play 5-yard, 10-yard, 20-yard passes from the back very accurately. You don't get that very often with a centre-back. He's 22, so he's got loads of developments in him. He's 6'2", and he likes to fight, so he's good in the air. He can play right back if you need him to play there. He's very good on the ball. He's got all the attributes to go on and be a very, very good centre-back. But above anything else, Jose Mourinho has picked him to be Manchester United's centre-back signing this summer. That should be end of the conversation, because Jose Mourinho works wonders with centre-backs especially. Look, through his whole career, he's very, very good at it. Look at last season, he made Phil Jones and Rojo look absolutely amazing. That's not by accident. He turned Valencia into somebody who was positionally suspect into probably the best right-back in the league. Jose Mourinho, when it comes to discipline and defensive side of the game, has no peer. He is absolutely the best. And if he thinks Lindelof is the centre-back for Manchester United, then I'm sorry, you've got to sit down and you've got to trust it. And I think it's really, really, really wrong for people to be spreading negativity about Lindelof when he's only just signed. I know it's all about opinion, and I've had people last night saying to me on Twitter, well, you can't have a go at people's opinion. I'm not having a go at people's opinion. In relation to that person, I was saying, instead of chatting absolute nonsense, why don't you just come on and on a show, and I'll tell you why he's good, and you can try and tell me why he's bad, because I'm convinced that that person has not watched Lindelof play more than a half an hour clip on YouTube, whereas I've watched him play probably 11 times this season, and I'm very, very happy with the signing, and I think he'll be really, really good. And what I would add is, because I know quite rightly a lot of you people would say, well, you never wanted Michael Keane at Manchester United. I don't want Michael Keane to be our first choice signing, but if Mourinho signed him, then I would back Mourinho. I don't want Matic, but if Mourinho gets him, he gets my support, because that's, Mourinho is the manager. But if we signed Michael Keane now, I'd actually be quite excited by it, because Michael Keane as a backup centre-back is exactly fine. That would probably mean we'd get rid of Jones and Smalling, but Michael Keane as the number one centre-back was the thing that concerned me. Really did. But let's take some of your comments, because I know when it gets a little bit opinionated, we might get a little bit back. Tuanzebe is good backup. Mark, do you agree? He says Itzri. Yeah, I think Tuanzebe can be good backup. I think Tuanzebe will be a very, very good centre-back. He's just not ready yet. It's a bit... Look, his development is in relation to development as a player is a year behind Rashford. He only broke on the scene in the last few weeks of this season. Rashford broke on the scene on the last few weeks of the season before. And Rashford is not ready to be our number 9 yet. He's close, but he's not ready to play 50 games as our number 9 yet. I still think he needs an experienced one with him, and he needs to still keep learning. That's how we'll get the best out of Rashford. But Tuanzebe, again, he's not ready yet. He needs to learn. Who's he going to learn from? Bay's a good example, but bringing in someone like Lindelof, who's good at passing from the back as well and wants to fight, it would be really good learning for Tuanzebe. So whether Mourinho wants to keep him part of the first team squad, or whether he wants to send him off to maybe a lower Premier League club and get a season of first team football, a bit like Chelsea did with, was it Aki at Bournemouth? If I was Bournemouth, I'd be looking at Tuanzebe and thinking, can we get hold of him? Because that's exactly the sort of deal that would be great for him. And it's what we should have done with Fosu Mensah last year. I mean, Fosu Mensah, less than 20 minutes of the Premier League before the last game of the season, was atrocious. He should have been loaned out. Sukesh says, isn't Lindelof a more John Stones? I've heard this nonsense as well. I've heard this nonsense as well from the same person. He's like John Stones. He's clearly not watched Lindelof. He's not watched Lindelof to be spreading that nonsense. And they get a lot of views on that video. That is absolute nonsense. He is nothing like John Stones. John Dutch Stones is like about as strong as a wet piece of tissue when you smack it hard. It just falls apart. John Stones is quite good on the ball. Lindelof is good on the ball. That is where it ends. That is where it totally and utterly ends. He's got one trait that is similar to John Stones. Lindelof likes to tackle, is good in the air, he's strong, he's quick, and he's good on the ball. Positional sense is better than John Stones as well. John Stones positionally is atrocious. But John Stones doesn't like a battle. John Stones isn't good in the tackle. There is one thing that they are similar. And it's quite annoying really, because I can't lie to you about some players, and I won't lie to you about some players. Like if we signed Hirving Lozano, he looks like he's going to Manchester City. I haven't watched him this season really. I've seen one game highlights when they played at the weekend. But I know he's a good player from what I'd seen last year. Lindelof, I've seen him over 10 times this season, and I will not have a comparison with John Stones. That is ridiculous, and it annoys me that goes now out into the ether, and some United fans start to think he's like John Stones. He's nothing like John Stones, and I'll be passionate about that. There is no comparison, and it shouldn't even be out there. Dazar Bears made a contribution. Lindelof made 400 completed passes for more than any defender in Portuguese league. Good stat, that I think. Yeah, I've heard that about last night as well. I mean, I'm not massively into stats, and he does play for a very good team in Benfica, so you'd expect his passing to be higher than somebody who's at the bottom half of a Portuguese league. But he's very good at passing the ball out the back. Riaz E says, you've done a show for the ins, Mark, for United. Can you do a show for the outs? I will do, but I think there's so much going on with the ins at the moment. And remember, if you watch that show on Monday that I did of Manchester United 5 ins predicted, we've got 1 out of 5 already, which means I've equalled last season with our first signing, because I only got Zlatan last year. But for those who didn't see the video Monday, it was Lindelof, Morata, Perisic, Fabinho, Belotti. And this was before... later in the week, when the press was saying that 5, this was when people were still on about Griezmann and Bale and Keane and others, so we're happy about that. Verratti, yes, I've heard that he might want to leave PSG. We're not linked to him at all, but if it could happen. Zayn Hussein saying Sky Sports have confirmed Manchester United made a bid of 28 million for Fabinho. I don't really take much note of Sky Sports, to be honest. They will get it right every now and again, but I don't take much notice of them. They've been so bad for so long. They really need to sort themselves out, really. I mean, if we can get information that's pretty good and other people can get information that's pretty good, what are Sky Sports doing? I've heard that they do it because since they got linked in with Sky Bet, they put information out to lure people in. I hope that's not true, but they're very, very poor. One player I would mention that I need to mention is Ross Barkley. Now, I know this is going to divide opinion because, and it's a great person to speak about because as passionate as I've been about Lindelof there, and I am right about Lindelof, he's not John Stones, and I am convinced he'll be a very good signing. But in relation to Ross Barkley, I agree it's a little bit more of a divider. Now, the Times in the UK is a very old institution, tabloid, very respected. In relation to sport, they don't do the headlines like United are signing Neymar for 120 million, so they're quite a respectable tabloid. They've mentioned Ross Barkley and an interest from Manchester United. Ross Barkley's got a year left on his contract, so he's probably not going to sign it with Everton. He's had a bit of an up and down season, so there is potential that Ross Barkley will leave Everton. When he was at Chelsea, Ross Barkley, when Mourinho was at Chelsea, there was big interest in Ross Barkley a long time ago from Mourinho, which indicates that he likes him. Ross Barkley, I think he's either 23 or 24. He's a lot younger than people think because he's been around for a long time. If Rooney goes, I'd quite like us to sign Ross Barkley for a couple of reasons. One, the English quota, and two, I just look at Ross Barkley. I think he runs around a little bit headless chicken, and I think he needs a proper manager to get in his head and drill down to him and make him understand the game and focus on the game. He's a very good talent. He's got a really good cross on him. He can be very creative. He's got a great engine. He's very tenacious. He's good on the ball. He can run with the ball. But it's too much headless chicken football. If Mourinho signed him, I'd be really excited. Now, I know, because I can hear without looking at the live comments, there's people going, Barkley's crap, don't want him. Even Paul, who does the website, was saying it this morning. But there's just something about Ross Barkley that I would like us to sign him. Whether it'll happen or not, it's probably very left field, but I would be very happy with that signing because yet again, I just trust Mourinho. And if Mourinho's seen what I can see in Ross Barkley and he wants to get that out of him, I'll be excited about that because I see in Ross Barkley with the right manager one of the best midfielders in the Premier League. I do. Everton scored a lot of goals last season and he was a lot to do with that. He's very good at running with the ball. He is very quick. He's got a lovely cross on him with the right foot. He's very creative. He can score a good goal. He's got absolutely everything in him. I mean, to be honest, he's probably, if you like Steven Gerrard, he's probably the closest to Steven Gerrard in his prime I've seen in the modern game. But he needs discipline and he needs guiding. That's all I can say about that. Lorenzo Van Matterhorn's made a contribution. He says, love the signing. Having creativity from the back will be interesting. Don't you remember when Blind used to do it back under Van Gaal and Van Gaal unlocked defences? Yeah, I agree. What's the news on Fabinho? Just that there's a lot of rumour that Fabinho will be the next signing. It could well happen today. We'll have to wait and see. Obviously, we'll react if it does. I hope it does. I would be absolutely over the moon if we signed Fabinho. Been on about it for weeks and weeks and weeks that he's the perfect CDM for us to go and get. So if it happens, it happens. Morata, I think, would have to be tomorrow at the earliest. Abhishek says, Mark, if you have to agree, we will have a very inexperienced back line. No, not really. I think, early 20s now. Bay's experienced after that season in the Premier League and then playing in Europe. And Lindelof's very experienced. He plays for Sweden. He's played in the Champions League. He's won titles at Benfica. He's very experienced for a 22-year-old lad. Ross Barkley is a winger, says Brishesh. Not really. He can play there. I mean, Mourinho might use him there, but he's not really a winger. He can play in the midfield. He can play anywhere in the midfield. Keith says he wishes it was Bakayoko instead of Fabinho. I disagree, but that's your opinion, Keith. Mo S says he's nothing like Steven Gerrard. Well, look, no, I'm not getting into an argument. If that's your opinion, that's fine. I totally disagree with you. And I'm certainly old enough to have seen Steven Gerrard when he was good, as much as I dislike him. And his movements on the ball and the way he drives teams forward, Barkley can do that. Izzy's on about, do you think Perisic is worth it? We'll just have to wait and see. And Barkley would be a good signing for us, 100%, says D-Dub. and Barkley's crap, says Smee. So look, I knew that one would divide opinion, and to be honest, we don't avoid stuff on here just because we're playing for likes or anything like that. It really is about opinion, and yours is as valid as mine when it's somebody who's a divider. But I will defend Lindelof. I don't think it's fair. I think there's nonsense being fed out there, absolute nonsense. Oh, he's like John Stones. Yeah, what you watched, like 2 minutes on YouTube. Actually go and watch the lad play football. He's nothing like John Stones, apart from he can play a pass from the back four. That's where it ends. Pereira over Barkley, says Tony. Yeah, well, yeah, I love Andreas Pereira, but I think Manchester United also need to be looking at signing English players. As many of you mentioned before, we have got English players within the squad, but we're going to lose a few this year, and we need to be bringing some through. And not all our youth are English. When you think Fosu Mensah and Pereira, they're not English players. You've got Tuanzebe and Rashford and Gomez a few years away, but we do need to be looking at that. And you know, that's very important that Manchester United have British players coming through. I'd love to have Irish and a Scottish lad coming through as well, by the way. Swedish John Stone, says Louis. Yeah, it's just absolute nonsense, that is. Matic rumour. Yeah, I've heard about Matic. Don't really want him, but if Mourinho gets him, then I will back Mourinho. And Ben Murray says, Mark, opinions. Morata said to talk with Bale to join Manchester United with him. Thoughts, please, Mark. Would appreciate it. Well, Bale could, there could be a big signing. Nobody knows what it is at the moment. And if anybody says they know what the big secret signing is, then I would argue that they definitely don't, because there's nothing out there. The only thing I would say is, and I accept it might not happen, but if I was a betting man, I'd still go with Mbappe, and I've been saying that for weeks. But we'll see. Thanks everybody for watching. Really enjoyed that. We nearly hit 3,000 on a Sunday morning live show, which is great. Don't miss the 8:30 show tonight. We hit 100,000 subscribers last night. We've got the big Sunday show tonight. If you don't remember how the United stand started, it didn't have a set like this. We've got a retro set for you. Hopefully we've got Kev coming on, who was on from one of the first shows, with Alex as well, and a few other surprise guests. We will be talking about all the transfer news, obviously. We will be talking about United, but it is a bit of a celebration show as well. And a big thank you to all you lot, which you'll see. So join us live at 8:30 for that. But in the interim, I'll leave you with the latest Manchester United transfer now. But before the 8:30 show, there's a good 9 hours. Who knows what might happen between then? I'll leave it at that. We may be back live again. But if not, 8:30. Thanks everybody for watching. Things just suddenly got interesting for our summer. I think we were getting a little bit impatient, but that first signing is done now. We can relax and enjoy the rest of the weekend. I'm looking forward to the show tonight, and it wouldn't surprise me if we're live before then. I'll speak to you all later. Don't forget to drop a like, and if you are new, remember to subscribe, bottom right hand corner. You're all absolutely fantastic. And United in the Stands chant says, get the old camera to make it look like the old set. You might have something in that. We'll see. You'll see at 8:30. Thanks everybody for watching, and I shall speak to you later.